The star system burned under siege as Captain Marcus tightened his grip on the command rail, watching streaks of fire trail across the void. Alarms echoed through the ship while terrified crew members scrambled to their stations. Marcus said, "Hold formation, we're not losing another sector." His voice cut through the chaos, carrying both authority and dread. Sparks rained from overhead conduits, casting brief light over faces filled with desperation. Every console flashed red, each one a reminder of how close they were to annihilation. The comms officer shouted, "Incoming message, encrypted signal, unknown origin." Marcus hesitated, shadows of past failures weighing on his chest. The stars flickered as enemy dreadnoughts emerged, their colossal hulls blotting out hope. He thought of the civilians hidden in colony transports, relying on him for salvation. Fear twisted inside him, yet resolve hardened in equal measure. Marcus whispered, "This isn't just a fight for survival, it's redemption." The bridge settled into uneasy silence as enemy ships spread across the horizon like a predator's teeth. Marcus studied the holographic map, every sector bleeding red. He muttered, "They want us cornered." His second officer said, "If we break through here, we might reach the outer rim." Marcus clenched his jaw, doubt gnawing at him. He could still hear the screams of a lost crew from his last command. The memory was poison, yet his people looked to him for direction. The comms flickered again with the encrypted signal, an unfamiliar voice whispering coordinates through static. Marcus's brow furrowed. Who could reach them across this blockade? His mind warred between suspicion and hope. He felt the weight of leadership heavier than armor, but the choice was clear. He turned to his crew and said, "Set a course. We're not dying caged." The crew gathered in the command chamber, their faces reflecting fear and determination. Marcus said, "We're outnumbered, outgunned, but not beaten." His words cut through the heavy air. The survivor, scarred from past horrors, leaned against a wall, eyes hollow. She whispered, "You don't know what's out there." The crew turned, unsettled by her warning. Marcus studied her scars and knew survival demanded truth. The moral confidant stepped forward, placing a hand on Marcus's shoulder, saying, "Faith guides us even in darkness." The crew's eyes lingered on their captain, waiting for a decision. Marcus lifted his chin, forcing confidence into his voice. "If we fight among ourselves, we're already finished. Trust holds us together." His words rang like steel, binding their fragile hope. The first skirmish erupted as the fleet pushed against enemy lines. Explosions flared in the void, shaking their vessel with violent force. Marcus shouted, "All power to forward shields." The crew obeyed, hands flying across consoles. Outside, streaks of light pierced the black as starfighters clashed in furious spirals. The betrayer, masked by loyalty, whispered commands into a hidden device under the console. Marcus felt the tension in the air but pressed forward. "We hold until the transports break free," he roared. The ship buckled under another blast, sparks blinding the crew. Fear threatened to break their resolve, but unity welded them in fire. The battle had begun, and retreat was no longer an option. As the ship steadied, the crew erupted into argument. One officer said, "We can't win this, we should surrender." Another shouted, "If we surrender, we die slower." Voices collided with rage and fear. Marcus slammed his fist against the table, the sound silencing them. He said, "Every second we argue, they close in tighter." The moral confidant stepped forward, his calm voice breaking through the storm. Hope has carried humanity further than fear ever could. The emotional catalyst, eyes wide and innocent, whispered, "If we run now, who saves the families?" Silence wrapped the chamber as her words pierced their hearts. Marcus exhaled, shoulders heavy, but his voice returned steady. "We fight, not for victory, but for survival." The fleet surged forward, engines screaming as ships cut through enemy lines like sparks in a storm. Marcus stood rigid, his eyes tracking every flashing indicator on the map. "Break formation at my mark," he ordered, his voice heavy with command. The second officer replied, "If we split now, We risk being hunted alone." Marcus pressed his lips together, weighed down by the truth of those words. The ship rocked violently, alarms howling across the bridge. The survivor shouted, "They're pushing us into a trap." Marcus knew it, but choice was a luxury no longer his. He shouted, "Forward thrusters, cut across their flank." The vessel groaned, shuddering under enemy fire. The crew braced, sweat dripping as sparks burst overhead. Marcus's knuckles whitened as he whispered, "We will not be caged." As the ship steadied, Marcus locked eyes with the moral confidant. "Tell me we're not doomed," Marcus muttered, voice fraying at the edges. The older man stepped closer, laying a hand on his shoulder. "Hope survives longer than steel," he said, his voice calm yet resolute. The words lingered, their weight pressing into Marcus's chest. Around them, crew members whispered of failure, their fear a storm creeping across the bridge. Marcus exhaled, struggling against the memory of his past failures. He looked at his mentor, silently begging for clarity. "If I fail them again, it won't just be me lost," Marcus confessed quietly. The older man's eyes softened. "Failure doesn't define you, Marcus. What you choose next does." The words anchored him, pulling him back from despair. Deep within the command deck shadows, the betrayer worked silently. His hands hovered over a concealed transmitter, sending whispers into the void. His expression masked by loyalty, but his eyes glinted with ambition. Marcus's voice thundered across the bridge, shields at maximum power. The betrayer muttered, "Yes, Captain," while his thumb pressed the hidden signal. Outside, enemy ships shifted suddenly, as if guided by inside knowledge. The crew gasped at the timing, suspicion flickering across their faces. One officer asked, "How do they know our moves?" The betrayer feigned anger, slamming his fist as if in outrage. Marcus's chest tightened with unease, sensing betrayal without proof. He growled under his breath, "Someone's feeding them." Silence hung, as though even the ship itself knew treachery lived within. A sudden transmission pierced through static, cutting across the chaos. The comms officer gasped, "Unknown origin, encrypted, requesting link." Marcus hesitated, suspicion flaring. "Open it," he commanded. A shimmering hologram appeared, cloaked in shadows. A calm voice said, "Captain, I can help you break the siege." The hidden alley's figure flickered, obscured, their presence commanding yet elusive. Marcus narrowed his eyes. "Why should we trust you?" The hologram answered, "Because I know the path they don't want you to see." The crew exchanged wary glances, doubt battling with hope. The moral confidant whispered, "Sometimes salvation arrives from the unlikeliest hand." Marcus's chest burned with unease, but his voice steadied. "Show us, or we remain blind." The hologram pulsed, revealing secret coordinates. The room froze with anticipation. The enemy leader's visage filled the main screen, a face carved with ruthless ambition. His voice cut like a blade. "Your resistance delays the inevitable, Marcus." The crew stiffened, fear washing over them like a tide. Marcus glared at the screen, his jaw tight. "You'll have to crush every last soul before we kneel." The enemy leader smirked, his eyes burning with cruel charisma. "And I will." The crew shifted uneasily, sensing the power of his words. The emotional catalyst whispered, "He speaks like he's already won." Marcus's fists trembled, but his voice stayed steady. "Victory isn't written yet," he declared, defiance glowing in his eyes. The screen darkened, silence wrapping around the bridge like a noose. The war of wills had truly begun. Darkness clung to the command deck as Marcus's voice cracked through the tension. "Report the damage," he barked. Consoles sparked, casting light across terrified faces. The betrayer pressed unseen buttons beneath the console, his false loyalty hiding venom. Engines groaned, echoing like a dying beast as warnings filled the air. A crewman shouted, "Shields are faltering, sir." Marcus clenched his jaw, fear clawing at his chest. The survivor muttered, "This path feels wrong." But Marcus's gaze never wavered. He had no choice but to trust. The ship lurched, enemy fire tearing into its hull. In the shadows, the betrayer's transmitter glowed faint red, feeding secrets. Marcus growled, "We'll hold together or we'll fall apart." His words steadied the crew, though betrayal was already poisoning their course. Outside, the void became a killing field as starfighters clashed in violent spirals. Explosions lit the darkness with furious brilliance. Marcus shouted, "Keep the line steady." His crew obeyed, hands flying across consoles. The hull shuddered as plasma fire licked across its armor. The emotional catalyst whispered, "It feels like the stars themselves are dying." Her innocence pierced the suffocating air. Enemy ships pressed tighter, their formation unnervingly precise. Marcus growled, "They know our every move." Suspicion weighed heavy in his chest, suspicion he couldn't yet voice. The survivor's eyes widened, her voice trembling. "They've adapted. They're not just hunting us, they're hurting us." Marcus's fists trembled, his voice steel. "Then we'll break their cage." His words clung to the chaos like hope carved from fire. The survivor's voice cracked as silence fell across the chamber. "Hey, you don't know what waits beyond these stars," she whispered, eyes glassy with memory. Marcus turned, his jaw tight. "Then tell us." She shook her head, shadows clinging to her scarred face. "I've seen them, the ones that devour entire fleets without a shot. They don't conquer, they erase." Gasps rippled through the crew, disbelief mixing with dread. The moral confidant spoke softly, "Her pain is truth. We must listen." Marcus studied her, searching her haunted eyes. Her voice shook, "If we push too far, we'll awaken what should never be found." The crew shifted uneasily, doubt weaving with fear. Marcus drew a breath, his tone steady. "Then we fight the enemy before us, or we're already finished." Marcus stood at the star map, his reflection warped in its glow. His chest heaved as he whispered, "Am I fit to lead them?" Memories of burning wrecks and lifeless eyes seared his mind. The moral confidant's voice carried softly, "Guilt is the burden of those who care." Marcus clenched the table, veins straining against his skin. His second officer stepped closer. "The crew needs your strength, not your doubts." Marcus's eyes flickered with conflict. He remembered the families hidden aboard fragile transports, their survival tethered to his choices. He muttered, "I can't fail them again." The moral confidant's hand rested on his arm. "Strength is not perfection, Marcus. Strength is standing while the storm breaks." Marcus inhaled deeply, shoulders straightening, his voice returning steady. "Then I will stand." The betrayer slipped into a shadowed chamber, the door hissing shut behind him. His face twisted as he activated the transmitter, the enemy leader's hologram materializing before him. "They trust you still?" the enemy leader asked, voice dripping venom. The betrayer smirked, more than ever. The hologram's eyes gleamed, cruel satisfaction radiating. "Feed me their movements and I'll ensure you're rewarded." The betrayer nodded, ambition burning in his gaze. In the bridge above, Marcus felt unease crawling across his skin, his instincts whispering betrayal. But proof remained elusive. The betrayer whispered, "They won't see it coming." The enemy leader replied, "And by the time they do, it will be far too late." Darkness swallowed the chamber, betrayal binding their secret pact. The tragic hero sat alone in the observation deck, stars stretching endlessly before him. His hands trembled as he whispered, "I was meant to be more than this." His reflection wavered in the glass, a shadow of who he once was. Marcus entered quietly, the silence between them heavy. "You still carry their judgment," Marcus said, his voice steady. The tragic hero laughed bitterly. "I carry their screams." His eyes burned with shame, the weight of past failures chaining him. Marcus placed a hand on the railing beside him. "The past doesn't decide today, you do." The tragic hero turned, pain etched into his face. "Redemption feels farther than the stars." Marcus held his gaze, firm, then walked toward it anyway. The blockade tightened as enemy dreadnoughts surrounded them, a cage of steel and fire closing in. The comms officer gasped. They're sealing every route. Marcus gripped the railing, veins pulsing in his hands. Options, he demanded. The second officer shook his head. We're boxed in, sir. The survivor muttered. This is exactly how they break you. Fear clawed through the crew, voices rising with panic. Marcus roared, hold steady. His command cracked through the fear, silencing them. The holographic map blinked red, their survival shrinking by the second. Marcus's jaw clenched. They want us to believe we're trapped. The moral confidant whispered, faith bends cages into doors. Marcus stared at the map, determination kindling in his eyes. Then we'll make one. Tension boiled in the command chamber as Marcus slammed his hand against the star table. We cannot keep doubting each other, he growled. The crew exchanged nervous glances, suspicion heavy in the air. One officer muttered, they always know our position. Marcus's eyes swept across them, suspicion burning in his chest. You think there's a traitor among us? The officer asked, voice trembling. The betrayer's gaze shifted subtly, feigning outrage. How dare you accuse us while we bleed? Marcus's fists tightened, the weight of truth clawing at him without proof. The moral confidant spoke, trust is fragile, but it is the only thread left between survival and ruin. Marcus exhaled sharply, forcing steadiness. Then trust will be our weapon, not our weakness. The betrayer leaned forward, eyes blazing with false fury. It's her fault, he shouted, pointing toward the survivor. Gasps cut through the room as suspicion turned. The survivor froze, scars lit by the harsh glow, her voice trembling. I've bled for this ship, she whispered. Marcus's gaze snapped between them, his chest burning with conflict. The betrayer pressed harder. She's hiding something. She knows what waits in the dark. Crew voices rose, the chamber spiraling into chaos. Marcus slammed his fist against the table. Enough. His voice silenced the uproar, but mistrust lingered, thick and heavy. The survivor's eyes glistened, haunted but defiant. Marcus exhaled, torn between instinct and lack of proof. He said, we stay united, or we fall apart. As silence suffocated the chamber, the emotional catalyst stepped forward, her voice soft but piercing. If we fight each other, the enemy wins without firing another shot. Her innocence struck harder than any weapon. Marcus turned, eyes softening as her words cut through the mistrust. Crew members lowered their heads, shame rippling like a silent tide. The moral confidant smiled faintly, whispering, even the smallest flame banishes the deepest dark. Marcus drew a slow breath, lifting his chin. We hold together, not because it is easy, but because it is the only way left. The emotional catalyst nodded, her wide eyes shimmering with hope. Unity returned, fragile but burning. For now, trust had survived the storm. The enemy leader's hologram blazed across the bridge, his voice dripping with venom. Marcus, you cling to illusions of freedom. I bring order. The crew stiffened, their eyes locked on the towering projection. Marcus stepped forward, fists tight. Order bought with blood is nothing but tyranny. The enemy leader sneered, his charisma sharp as a blade. The galaxy needs a hand that does not falter. Marcus's heart pounded, his crew watching, weighing his defiance. The emotional catalyst whispered, he believes he is the savior. Marcus raised his chin, his voice steady. No savior demands chains. The hologram flickered, the leader's eyes narrowing with rage. His words cut through the chamber like steel. Then you will burn with your defiance. Silence hung, heavy with dread. The hidden Allah's hologram returned, flickering with urgency. The path lies beyond the drift sector, he said, voice steady. Marcus narrowed his eyes. Why help us? The figure's face shifted slightly, shadows peeling away to reveal more. Gasps echoed across the bridge. It was a former noble, long believed lost. Because your enemy was once mine. The hidden ally said, eyes sharp with vengeance. The crew exchanged wary looks, doubt still heavy. Marcus studied him. If this is a trick, We're finished. The hidden alley's voice hardened. It's no trick. I know where their weakness bleeds. His words trembled with both truth and rage. Marcus exhaled slowly, resolve settling. Then show us the way. The chamber crackled with the weight of revelation. Ah! The betrayer's mask cracked as whispers spread across the crew. Eyes turned toward him, suspicion sharp as knives. He slammed his fist, snarling. You think I would sell us out? His voice echoed with feigned fury. Marcus's stare narrowed, his gut twisting. The enemy knows too much, Marcus growled. The betrayer's eyes darted, his breath quickening. The survivor stepped forward, scars lit by red glow. He's the leak, she said, her voice trembling but certain. The betrayer laughed coldly, rage trembling in his frame. You've been waiting to pin this on me. Marcus's chest heaved, proof still absent but certainty growing. He said, one more lie, and you damn us all. Silence consumed the chamber, betrayal finally clawing toward daylight. Marcus retreated into shadows of the chamber, guilt gripping his chest. He whispered, I led them once into fire, and they never came back. Memories clawed at him, burning ships, lost faces. His breath trembled as he pressed his palms against the cold steel wall. The moral confidant entered, silent footsteps steady. You carry ghosts, he said softly. Marcus closed his eyes. Their screams don't fade. The older man's hand rested on his shoulder. They remain because you still fight for them. Marcus's jaw tightened. But what if I fail them again? The moral confidant's eyes glistened with wisdom. Failure is not the end. Refusing to rise again is. Marcus exhaled, resolve sparking. He straightened, whispering, then I rise. His words carved steel into his spine. The survivor's voice cracked as she spoke in hushed tones. The enemy isn't the only threat. I've seen them. The ones beyond. Marcus turned, his expression tightening. What are you saying? Her scars glistened in the dim glow. There are beings that consume fleets whole, leaving only silence. The crew gasped, their faces pale. The emotional catalyst whispered, monsters? The survivor shook her head, her voice trembling. Not monsters, erasers. Marcus's breath caught, his chest heavy. The moral confidant murmured, some truths arrive like storms. Marcus exhaled, his voice low but steady. Then we fight the war in front of us, before the greater one swallows us all. The chamber trembled with unspoken fear, revelation reshaping destiny. The void erupted into fire as the fleet collided with the enemy in a storm of plasma and steel. Marcus gripped the railing, his voice thunderous. All wings, engage on my mark. Explosions rippled across the black horizon, starships shattering like glass. Crew members shouted as alarms blared, their voices drowning beneath the roar of battle. The betrayer's eyes darted nervously, his schemes unraveling under the chaos. The emotional catalyst clung to her console, whispering a prayer for the families hidden in transports. The survivor braced, her scars lit by the crimson glow of enemy fire. Marcus roared again, for every soul depending on us, fight! The bridge shook as beams of energy tore across their hull. The final war had begun. The tragic hero staggered to his post, eyes heavy with both guilt and resolve. If I fall today, let it count, he muttered. Flames erupted around him as he diverted power into the shields. Marcus shouted, "What are you doing?" The tragic hero turned, determination burning in his weary face. "Buying you time." Energy crackled around the ship as he overloaded systems, his body trembling under the strain. Sparks rained from the console, his sacrifice carving hope out of fire. The survivor's voice cracked. "You'll kill yourself." He smiled faintly, whispering, "Better me than them." With one final surge, he slammed his hand against the controls. The shields roared to life, catching the full brunt of enemy fire. His redemption burned bright in the chaos. The main screen flickered alive with the enemy leader's face, his cold grin cutting through the smoke. "It ends now, Marcus," he said. Marcus stepped forward, fire in his eyes. "No, it begins." The chamber trembled with tension as the two men locked gazes across the void. "You've already lost," the enemy leader hissed. Marcus shook his head slowly. "A man who rules with chains never wins." The enemy leader's smile faltered, venom flooding his tone. "Then you'll watch them burn." Marcus's chest heaved as he barked, "I'll stop you myself." Silence followed, the weight of destiny pressing heavy. The crew froze, every breath tied to their captain's defiance. The bridge became a battlefield of wills, sharper than any blade. The betrayer's desperation cracked as alarms screamed louder. He slammed a hidden device, but sparks flared, betraying him. A crewman shouted, "He's the one!" Marcus's eyes burned as truth finally surfaced. "You betrayed us," Marcus growled. The betrayer sneered. "I did what you were too weak to do." He lunged for the controls, but Marcus slammed him against the console. Chaos erupted as crew restrained him, his face twisted with rage. "They promised me survival," he screamed. Marcus's voice was steel. "And they gave you nothing but chains." The betrayer struggled, his ambition collapsing into ruin. The crew's eyes glistened with fury and betrayal, but Marcus's voice silenced them. "This ends now." The air trembled with justice long delayed. Marcus turned, his chest heaving, as the crew's eyes locked on him. "This is our stand," he roared. "Every soul in those transports depends on us." His words thundered through the chamber, silencing fear. The emotional catalyst stepped forward, her voice trembling but strong. "Then let's fight like they deserve to live." Her innocence cut through the chaos, igniting fire in every heart. The survivor straightened, her scars glowing in the dim light. "I won't run from shadows anymore." The moral confidant's eyes glistened, his voice calm. "Then together we endure." Marcus drew a breath, fire blazing in his stare. "One last stand," he declared. Outside, the fleet surged, engines screaming against the dark. The final push had begun, fate hanging by a thread. The final wave of enemy ships shattered against Marcus's fleet as the battered flagship tore through the blockade. Flames licked across broken hulls, but the transport slipped free. Marcus steadied himself, voice raw but resolute. "Hold formation until every last civilian clears the drift." The bridge crew erupted in weary relief, but the silence of lost comrades lingered heavy. The moral confidant whispered, "Victory carries the weight of sacrifice." Marcus exhaled, his chest tight. For every survivor saved, many had been lost. Yet hope still lived, carried by the ships breaking into open stars. The survivor leaned against the console, her voice trembling. "We made it, but shadows still follow." Her scars glistened under pale light, haunted yet unbroken. Marcus turned, his gaze steady. "You lived to warn us, and now we live to prepare." The emotional catalyst stepped closer, her eyes wide with innocence. "We can still build something better." The survivor nodded faintly, fear buried beneath fragile hope. Marcus drew a slow breath, his voice calm but certain. "The galaxy isn't safe, but it's still ours to fight for." The emotional catalyst stepped into the center of the bridge, her voice soft but piercing. "If we can survive this, then the families waiting on those transports can too." Her innocence cut through the heavy silence, pulling the crew from despair. The second officer whispered, "She's right." Marcus watched her, pride flickering in his weary eyes. "Your hope kept us from breaking," he said quietly. The moral confidant added, "The youngest flame burns brightest in the dark." For the first time, a faint smile broke across weary faces. Alone in his quarters, Marcus stared at the stars streaking beyond the viewport. His reflection was worn, scarred by choices and loss. He whispered, "Was it enough?" The moral confidant's words echoed in memory. "Strength is standing in the storm." He touched the glass, seeing both his failures and triumphs staring back. His breath steadied, his voice firm. "They will not fall while I still stand." For the first time, The weight of leadership no longer crushed him, it steadied him. The flagship glided silently into open space, stars returning like scattered embers of hope. Marcus stood at the center of the bridge, surrounded by his crew, their faces marked by loss, yet lit by survival. The survivor whispered, "This isn't the end." Marcus's gaze fixed on the horizon, his voice a steady vow. "No, it's the beginning of what comes next." The final silence weighed heavier than words, a promise carved in the void. The galaxy had not claimed them, not yet.